What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jack Ramsay's Tandem Marang. Brandon Sprague. It is Sunday at 7:15, the 17th. Selection Sunday. We'll dive into some NCAA tournament stuff. Some prospects to watch because there's some questions in there in our mailbag here today. Good, bad, or otherwise. We'll talk about what we've learned from this Trailblazers team and the limited time they've had together out on the floor, and then everything in between. Mr. Sprague, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Basketball season for me and my team is over. We got second place in the league.
Oh, Coach Sprague, look at that. Podium.
Hey, there's this team that's undefeated, and we lost 3 times to them this year by a collective 3 points. So it was heartbreak city for us. But it's great, man. We had this season going on. We were over 500, and the team that you and I largely cover, you more so than I, sub 500. So it was a nice balance out of losing basketball on TV but winning basketball on the weekend. So it's nice to kind of mellow down a little bit. And there's 15 games left in the season. Sit down, watch, and see what happens with a lot of these young players.
I like it. I like where you're going with this. I just want to point out, for those that have not seen the screenshot today, the Toronto Raptors and Orlando Magic played each other, and there was an epic jersey swap at the end of the game.
I missed this. Who was it?
Anthony Black and Grady Dick.
Black Dick, yes. Or Dick Black, they
held up Black Dick.
They understood what they were supposed to do there.
Both with giant smiles on their face, with Anthony Black trying not to completely lose it. So the kids are all right.
What I love about that is when I would occasionally, and I don't do it often, so I'm being honest here, occasionally catch a Raptor game.
Okay.
If they're not playing Portland on League Pass.
I didn't know what you were occasionally capturing there.
Yeah, occasionally. The amount of teams, Danny, when that kid got drafted, I giggled to myself. I'm like, if I was a commentator, I'd be making these jokes all day. And then I was like, that's why I'm not.
Yeah, no. I'm going to throw him under the bus. Travis Demers dropped one during the game. Because
Demers loves a good dick.
Yes, he does. Yes. He loves him some good dick.
He loves him dropping a dick, man. He's a big fan.
He's behind me. He's like, "Did you hear it?" I was like, "How could I not?"
Did you hear that?
Yes, I heard it.
I think I caught a Joe Myers AD game, and Myers was just like, and the dick goes up, and AD's like, "Oh, I see what you're doing with the dick there." Just dropping one of these. Whoa, it's getting the freaky hour.
Taking the very subtle thing and just pointing it out horribly. Yes. I do that pretty often too. So it's
But we can't curse on what usually what we do. We can't curse.
Yeah.
And
so that's the envelope that we push.
Yeah, we're normal people, so we do talk like that, but we can't do it usually in our job.
I think I've pushed the very boundaries of what we can say on the radio pretty close a couple times where Jeff and Dusty have both looked at me like,
We did a Blue Chew commercial read a couple years ago, our show, and we did it so dirty that we actually got told by our general manager that we could not read them like that anymore. And my counter was, why not? Primetime's talking about it. I think Dusty can't. They're talking about it. Other shows were talking about it. Why would you not want to talk about it?
So, yeah, it's a good time. Just black dick for everybody.
Well, speaking of good signs, these young players.
Look at that transition. I love it. That sounds like me. We do have a billion questions here. Shout out to everybody who submitted questions for the mailbag. You want to start with the mailbag? You want to start with some March Madness?
Let's
go mailbag.
Okay, you want to go mailbag? Let's do mailbag. Okay.
Mailbag.
This one's from the first one. With how Scoot came in the league, what does that say about how the Ignite developed players for the NBA? Assuming this highlighting a lot of Scoot's struggles and difficulties this season, rookie year. Obviously, people have noted it. What say you about the Ignite? Because I know Silver is not very happy with them.
Yeah. This is a conversation that I've had with a lot of folks. Is the Ignite's place in the world, so to speak, especially after this year. So for those that don't know, G League Ignite is a special developmental tool where you're taking guys out of high school or younger players and giving them a place where they can quasi-play professionally in a development atmosphere. Okay, that's
so it's like a purgatory one and done, right?
Yeah, sure, but it's it's been this weird, ubiquitous place where the quiet part is being said out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just here to get the bag until you can go on to the next place. And in the meantime, you can work on a few things. And in that process, you're maybe missing some things. Like how to play within a team, how you learn to fit in, the level of competitiveness, playing in front of crowds. Like, again, like G League, you're getting like 1,200 people, 1,500 people max.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit more in some other places, but like that's kind of what it is. And I'll just say it's kind of a selfish team. I mean, everybody has their own motivations when you're in the G League. Everybody's trying to make it for the most part. There's a couple that are just old savvy vets that are there just to kind of help guys on their path to hopefully making it to the league. The vast majority are in it for themselves because they're trying to make it to the next place. That's amplified in the G League, where you've got these guys that are being looked at as like the next guy, right? And so when you're the next guy and there's 5 of you, how do you decide who gets fed the most and who gets prioritized? And so last year, with it being Scoot, it didn't show as much because he's not a guy who's chucking shots. He's playing the right way, so to speak. He's running the offense, getting downhill, putting rim pressure on, and kicking out, right? Well, number one, you don't have a ton of shooters in that league.
Yeah.
In the G League. Spacing's it's better than it is in college, but still not great. So you start dealing with that. There's also not a lot of bigs. So, like, there's a reason why Duop Reith went down for one G League game and had 37 points. He was just bombing away because they didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Baji goes down to the G League and gets like 3.5 to 4 blocks a game in like 15 minutes because he's a mutant down there.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of Kenny Loftons, 6'7", 270-pound dudes who are just like, I'm going to get busy because you can't stop me.
Yeah.
And so the development stuff it's different. And I think they're going to put some rails around the G League. There's going to be a limited amount of guys on the Ignite. I would say 3 being the max, being one and done guys. Personally, I think I would probably go with 2 and then go with 2 guys where you have to sign a 2-year commitment. I think that's the way that I would go about it. That way there's always kind of like a stagger. Like, hey, you've got some young guys, but hey, they're going to be there for 2 years. So next year they're kind of, they have a better understanding. I don't know. I don't know if there's a perfect answer to it, but a lot of teams are looking at it like, is it G League? Do we want to take guys from that program? Because right now, there hasn't been anybody that I've talked to who's like, number one, Ron Holland got shut down for the season. So everybody's kind of, and that was for a broken hand. But he's sliding down boards. Even though Ron's no longer on the floor and there's more opportunities for Modest Buzelis, he's sliding down boards for a lot of other people that I'm talking to. Yeah. So it's like, for some people, he's rising up because he's playing better than he was earlier, but it's like he's getting more touches. Long story short, I don't think anyone's looking at the Ignite as like this perfect place for incubation.
It sounds like it's more detrimental for a lot of prospects
right now. I think it is because you're not always. This isn't just be kissing his ass, but it really matters. Pooh Jeter was like the perfect guy to be a mentor in the G League because he wasn't going to the league. A couple of years ago, you had Amir Johnson down there. Like this year, you've got Norris Cole who's like trying to work his way back into the league.
What about Mo Harkless?
Yeah, reality hit Mo in the face.
Yeah, it did.
That's what happened. He looked around. He's like, because again, they're undersized and Mo's 6'8". In that game against, was it the Philadelphia G
the
League
Laker
team?
one or the Philly?
No, it was the one that had Kenny Lofton on the team, and they were short on centers. And I remember them getting called into the game, and Mo's like, "We're at," and they're like, "At the 5," and he just goes, "Shit, shit."
Looking at Lofton like, damn it, I got a body with
I got to fight this guy to get back in the league. And it was like, that's like what like the reality was of kind of going, like trying to figure stuff out. He's like, was Mo, and this isn't to throw Mo under the bus, like Mo was coming back off injuries and trying to find his way back in the league, and it was, go do something you haven't done.
Yeah, but Danny, I think here's the hard thing. I don't know how any of the legal stuff would hold up because we're in an interesting point where the NCAA basically doesn't have any power at all.
God, I'd love to see it.
Well, but I know. There's a lot of comeuppance there. But, like, what would be the difference, do you think, in the league between allowing the one and done or if you do college or the Ignite, it has to be a minimum 2 years? Like, you sign a commitment. That's
where I go.
You need to go the baseball route, right?
Yes, I think that's where this needs to go. I was talking to somebody about this the other day who said they wanted 3 years, and I'm like, hey, you're not getting that.
No, 3 years is ridiculous.
Like, I think I think it makes sense for 3 years, but 2 years is probably the number. I think 2 years is the number.
It helps both, by the way. Not only does it help the player, it helps college basketball matter again.
You stop doing what USC did this year.
Yes. All five-star freshmen. It didn't work.
Eight guards on the team because you're trying to do this, and it's like, bro, can we not? And then there's other teams who are like, hey, we'll take all the transfers, and all of a sudden they're good again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what is happening here? I don't. Yeah, I think
they need to fundamentally change it personally, and Silver's hinted at as much. So I think it is a poor reflection on them and what they created. It's just, can you get the genie back in the bottle, or can you figure out a way to benefit the player and benefit your league? Because it makes you look bad when you have a team like this.
Yes, and like they have marched them into gym after gym after gym to get the crap kicked out of them. It's been bad.
Yeah.
So the G League is, I think it's a good developmental spot. I think they need to rethink how they're doing the Ignite.
Is a lineup of Ant, Sharp, Delano, Sarr, and Ayton. So this is assuming they've got Olivier Sarr.
Mm-hmm. No, Alex Sarr.
Or Alex Sarr, sorry.
The other Sarr.
Yeah, the other Sarr brother. With the 8-man rotation being coming off the bench, Scoot, Bari, Kamara. So is that enough? This person wants to know, is that enough to have playoff aspirations next year, barring major injuries?
I think if the Blazers end up with Sarr, Ayton, Ant, I think you're cooking with something there.
How would you progress Sarr's season so far? Or how would you grade it?
His development down in Australia. So he had the hip injury, and so he had to sit out for a little bit, and he came back. It's kind of hard, again, like the G League, to make evaluations on this stuff. That's what I did on the, if you guys want, on the Patreon. There's a 3,400 word breakdown on Sarr. But I think he's been one of the more successful young guys, if not the most successful young guy, to kind of play through the NBL. His numbers aren't great, but I do see something there with him. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, he's number one on my board. I have questions about the rebounding. I have questions about his shooting as far as like how it's going to develop. I don't question the motor. I don't question the size or the athleticism. Like, I think he's got a very high floor. But I really look at him as a prospect. He's an elite mover, like mobility wise. And I think when you've got that kind of size and mobility, with his willingness to shoot and his IQ, you're cooking with gas. Like, I really do think that you've got a guy who can win a Defensive Player of the Year. That's
and you like him with Ayton.
I do. I think you could actually play him as a 4, much like Jaren Jackson in Memphis and Steven Adams.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I've seen Sarr switch on to guards and guards better than guards.
Wow.
Guards. That's a lot of guards. But yeah, it's honestly, watching him is kind of creepy. There's some like Wemby stuff to him where you're like, Wemby's way bigger. Don't get me wrong. Wemby's legitimately 7'5", where Sarr.
You mean movement wise, right?
Yeah, and I think Sarr is actually a more fluid mover than Wemby.
Wow.
That's the thing. It's like you watch Wemby, it's like, oh my God, he takes up so much space. Sarr isn't quite like that, where you're like, how does he have one hand in the passing lane in the paint and the other one like a foot away from the 3-point line? With Sarr, you're like, how did he get from the paint to the 3-point line that fast?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that he has, quote Andrew Nemec here, he has super oily hips. Like most people have like one hip stiffer than the other. You know, either a regular or goofy foot, so you flip one way a little bit easier. He seems to rotate out of his hips like flawlessly on both sides, so you can't get him to like stumble and step. And it's when you watch a lot of tape on him, you just sit here and you watch him slither, and you're just kind of like, this doesn't look right. Like you shouldn't move like this at this size. And when you have that size and that mobility, it's one of those things where you're just like, okay, I see what's kind of coming together here.
But playoff aspirations.
I think you're talking about, if you're talking play-in, I think you squint and you can see it. But also, I like Banton. I don't think you want him as a 3. I think you want him kind of attacking against second units. But, and we'll talk about Banton here in a little bit.
Wouldn't you be better off? You'd be better off putting Delano in the second unit and
starting
up Kamara, right?
Yeah, starting 2. Yeah, and if you're like you're a little light on shooting, no matter what you do there. You're hoping number one, Sarr figures out the shooting, which right now he's shooting like 30%, but he's like willing to take threes. Okay. I don't think DA he started taking them. He started taking them over the last couple of weeks.
He wetted a couple of them, yeah.
So hilariously or coincidentally,
one in the corner was just like,
yep. So about that, the game before that, so it was the back-to-back. They had the Hawks and the Knicks back-to-back.
Yeah.
So pregame Hawks, this was completely out of the blue, because in these pregame meetings or pregame press conferences, like I'm running out of questions. Like it's just there's only so many things I can ask pregame with the way the season is going, and I was like, Chauncey, this is kind of out of nowhere, but we talked about this at the beginning of the season. Haven't really seen it yet with the way DA's been shooting. Do you maybe want to see him take a step back? And he's like, yeah, we're working on that. And he goes, but specifically only the corners. And I thought that was interesting that they wanted to flash him out to the corner. And I think that was a 2-part thing. 1, they wanted DA in the corner. 2, they wanted it to be Tamani in the pick and roll to find a way to get him more involved. And that was kind of an interesting kind of wrinkle through that. And we've seen him take, I think, 3 threes in the last 4 games now. I'm interested to see where that goes. Brandon, he just shoots the living hell of the ball. I looked at it on Second Spectrum. Mm-hmm. He is in the non-paint mid-range. So, you know, there's tools that I can click to like highlight only the mid-range outside of the paint.
Yeah.
He's the 4th best shooter in the entire NBA. And his volume is by far better than anybody else.
And he's what? He's got to be a legit 1 foot inside of the 3-point line when he's shooting a lot of these shots.
A lot of these shots.
Yeah.
Any guesses to what he's shooting in that range? It's absurd.
It's absurd.
I tweeted it out last night.
What did you tweet out?
It's almost 59%.
59?
Like 58.76 on volume.
So are we going to see this ramped up in the last 15 then?
I
think to be right.
I think so. And then again, the threes, I don't think you're going to see a ton of. I think you might see like 1 a game down the stretch, but I think that is something they are trying to get him to do. Just it would, because he's not getting free throws.
Yeah,
he has to find some way to find the efficiency.
The tough thing on this playoff aspirations thing, I just add to it: Scoot, Bari, Kamara, if you want to put Banton in there, and even Shade. Mm-hmm. And, oh, by the way, Sar's going to be a rookie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can go that high. I like some of these pieces. I for sure do. But I don't know how much better or different some of these other players are going to be. I know we'll get into some of the younger players, but where's 2? Bari, Scoot. I mean, there's obviously a lot of thoughts and feelings about Scoot out there. And Sar's going to be new to the league. There's going to be a learning curve there. Shaden played 30 games this season. I just don't think you can look at that and comfortably say playoff aspirations.
I don't think it's playoff aspirations. I think you could talk play-in.
I think that's your best case
Yeah.
scenario, assuming health and growth. Yes, absolutely.
And the floor of a guy like Sarr is relatively high.
It has to be high. Yes.
So
Who's your if you had to
let's say it's not quite Chet.
Okay.
Let's say it's 3/4 Chet.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Then again, I'm not saying him. I'm not comping him to Chet. I'm
No, I
talking
know
about
what you're saying.
the floor impact that
Yes.
he has had. Like
Yes.
that's if he's that, then you go, okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So,
Somebody says I heard a few times. You've said the next summer is when they have to make the decision on Ant, Scoot, and Shea. Can you explain a scenario other than catastrophic injury where Ant is not the odd man out? Would they really move on from Scoot after 2 years or Shea after 3?
I don't think it's between Shea and Ant or Shea and Scoot. I think Shea is separate from here. Shea's a 2.
Yes.
The question is between Ant or Scoot.
The clear logjam.
Yeah, it's at the 1. I don't think it's this thing where, like, because Scoot's the number 3 overall pick, that they have to side with Scoot. If Scoot doesn't show anything after year 2 or doesn't show a level of growth that makes you go, I can see it, I don't think that they would just automatically go, well, he's younger and trade Ant. I don't think that's necessarily the way they would go. Now, maybe they trade Ant anyways because he gets more in a return than Scoot if that situation were to happen. But you can look at, again, this is not me saying this. I'm saying this is as a floor. If his floor is like a Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs type, where the offense is there, but defensively pretty damn good and you can trust him. Like, okay, it's a bit of a weird archetype, but we've seen it work, with Marcus Smart, with Fultz. Suggs is more of a 2, but you know what I mean. The Pat Bev super type, Drew Holiday on the very high end. Caruso's more of a 2, but like those are the kind of guys where you maybe see that happening. And then you're more offensive up and down the rest of your roster, which, okay, I can see it going that way. But overall, I don't think it's like this thing where it's like Scoot's in the pole position on the way out. If anything, I think Ant would be. Ant's the guy who's averaging 23, 6, and 5.
Yeah, but that's, I know we've talked about this a little bit. That's a hard thing to just move on from.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like Ant has his faults, but like the amount of coverage that Ant requires defensively from a team any given night, what does that look like when he has other dudes on the floor?
Well, we went through the numbers before the pod. He's got career highs in almost everything.
Yeah, he's career highs in almost every. He's career high in points, career high in rebounds, career high in assists, career high in free throw attempts, free throw percentage.
His percentages are down like a couple percent.
Yeah, his 2-point percentage is down, and
Yeah.
his true shooting percentage is down a little bit. But like up and down the board, his usage rate is up. His turnovers are up a little bit. Like he's doing more, but also more everywhere else, and he's doing this without the aid of like. If you look at the 2-man game specifically between him and Ayton post New Year, those two together are sporting a above average pick and roll relationship per second spectrum.
Which I think is clearly evident when you watch them play.
Yes.
It's like the only positive, well, not the only, but one of the big positives I would say the last 2-3 weeks has been DA doing what he's done. He's averaging 10 more points this month than he did in February, 4 more rebounds. And you pair that with what him and Ant look like on that floor. They might not be winning most of these games, but it's clear as day to me that you can see there's something building there.
And I took a look at the screen data, and DA's screening almost exactly the same amount, but his points per attempt are going way up. His field goals per screen are going way up, which means a couple different things. Either he's just taking more shots per screen and forcing it, or they're getting him the ball in positions that are more advantageous, or he's more willing to take shots in those spots. And I think it's becoming that they're more advantageous and they're understanding how to get him involved. The relationship, talking to DA, like talking to DA post game is fun. Some of the best interviews you'll ever have. You never know what he's going to say.
You played me an audio clip for the listeners out there. You played me an audio clip of something that caught your eye or your ear with Scoot, and nothing
Yeah.
that you need to necessarily share right here and now. But you were playing me a clip on your phone before we started, and in the middle of Scoot answering a question, you hear Da just coming like,
Dirt,
like,
dirt. Yeah, it's him walking out of the shower.
like the chef from like the Muppets,
the Swedish chef. Yeah, that's Da in a nutshell. Like he's always there.
But Danny, let me add something to this too. This isn't me suggesting that he wants to. But when you talk about some of this stuff, I think what we overlook from time to time is, does the player feel the same way? Ant is certainly a dude that if you told me it's summertime, you were on another bad team, you were pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
It's the NBA. And so it's like these decisions aren't always something that you get to
make.
Decide or make. It's kind of sometimes forcing your hand a little bit. And I'm not, again, suggesting or trying to start anything.
No.
I'm just saying I don't know how to separate this.
There's always two sides. Not even just two sides. There's multiple sides to this. Johnson may want X, Joe may want Y, and a player may want Z.
Yeah.
And then an owner may want something completely different. And that you have to be able to find those things. And that's not new. That's every offseason all the way through a roster.
Yeah.
The guy at the very bottom doesn't just want a deal. He wants a deal to show what he can do so we can get to the next deal, so we can get to the next deal, so we can get to the next deal. And if that means stepping on somebody through there, that's fine. It's dog eat dog. That is what this world is. And dancing around that isn't going to do anybody any good. And it's the same thing at the very top. When you're at the very top, you go, okay, how do I get to the next mountain? And that's how this works. And so I don't know if I've continually said that this summer, it's coming up like in a couple weeks, by next summer they would have to make that move. That does not mean that they could or would not make that move in the meantime.
Yeah.
Whether it was this summer or next trade deadline. Or, this summer you've got multiple inflection points. You've got the draft and free agency.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now less than 2 months away from the NBA draft lottery.
That's insane.
It's going to be here quick.
There's 15 games left, dude. The season's basically done.
Yeah, and half of those are on a 7-game road trip.
I know. Yeah, 7 are on the East Coast.
Somebody was talking about the other day, there's only 6 home games remaining?
I believe that would be correct.
2 3-game homestands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
6 home games remaining.
I only have 6 more games that I'm going to. That's crazy.
That is crazy. It always flies by, too. Like, it's such a long season, but then you're like, oh, it's mid to late March. Season's basically cooked at this point.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
Next question was about Delano.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of hitting at some of this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I figured we'd get there eventually.
This one says, I find myself feeling like we have to ask Banton does Banton have a place on this team? Has he shown enough to consider him being part of the puzzle? Now they lost, obviously. He had a nice little game against New Orleans. He's had a nice run for himself here.
Bro, he's hoping.
Yeah, he's going out there and he's getting opportunities, balling out. His numbers I've really enjoyed. The Toronto game, what do you have? 25, 7, 4. He shot 62% from 3. The Boston loss, and look, some of these losses are awful, but like there's nothing he can do about that. 50% from 3. The Hawks game, he had 12 and 5, 66% from 3. New York, 16. And then obviously the New Orleans game, he's 50% from the field in general and 28 points. So this is an interesting one. Where are you at on Delano Banton? Are you feeling the same way as this person where you're like, he has to be part of what we're doing?
Does he have to be a part of it? No.
Or does it feel like he could?
But I feel like he's earned a way into it. They have 14 guys under contract next year, I believe. Mm-hmm. And if you told me they were going to make a multiple player swap, 2-for-1, 3-for-1 situation, and now they've got roster spots. Number one, he's only got a $2.5 million option that's only $200,000 is guaranteed, I believe, until January.
Ooh.
Yeah, you take that option because you can try him out until like January 10th next year.
Yeah.
If he can remotely shoot, he's a very solid third guard. He's 6'8". He has the ability to collapse a defense, get rim pressure, get downhill, and make solid decisions. And like it was like, well, he's getting shots up, blah 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 blah. Somebody has to, and like there's like a willingness to that of like, yeah, that's kind of what I want in my bench guard. It's a guy that gets downhill, puts rim pressure on, gets other guys involved, but like somebody just gets shots up. You have to have somebody coming off the bench who gets them up. It's just, unless you're just always going to have starters on the floor, like you're going to run like a staggered bench of like 2 starters who willingly get shots up. I like that in a guy, especially a guy with size. So I think it's one of those things is, I think if you look at him for what he costs, which is essentially a draft pick that will never convey, I think it's totally reasonable and fine to bring him back the next year.
I think the hard thing, and I've had these conversations, I think, throughout the year, maybe you have too, it's not a position of like know-it-all stuff, but I think if you're just being honest, the situation, it's lent itself to allow a Delano Banton to have an opportunity to showcase himself, right? He's been good. He's been fun. I've enjoyed the story of Delano Banton. I think going forward and saying like an absolute piece of the puzzle, they're not there.
No.
They haven't found their corner pieces yet. You got to find, when you start a puzzle, you got to find your border. We're still trying to do the outline here before we can dive in and find out where the real, tough pieces are to find that we need. So I've really enjoyed Delano Banton. I agree with everything you just said of they might be in a position where it's like a no-brainer. You bring him back, you see what he is.
I mean, he's 18-5-4 in his last 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, balling out. He's playing great. I can't go as far as saying like definite puzzle piece. Let's see what it is. Let's keep, with 15
like bring him
left.
back next year, and let's not have this be the small sample size theater. But like, I believe he has earned the opportunity to come back.
I agree with that. Yes, 100%.
Perfect example. Last year, Kevin Knox was this guy, and it was like, oh, I like Kevin Knox, and I was like, he's fine. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't bring him back. But like, he's got size. Like every one of these guys the Blazers have brought in have kind of fit a profile. Guys with size, right? It's like, oh yeah, no, like let's go get somebody who has a little bit more size to be more impactful. And Banton's the first one that has some real wiggle to him, and rim pressure. So I think looking at that, if you're using Kevin Knox as the scale, he's on the far end of the positive side of that. So where with Knox last year, I was like, meh. This year I'm like, sure, totally fine.
Well, it kind of leads into this question. I mean, it's who's had the better year, Banton or Scoot?
It's a question I've been asked by a couple different people. I had somebody ask me
isn't it?
last home game, who is better right now? And I was like, Delano?
Yeah.
And a big portion of that is his ability to get to the rim and put real pressure on the defense. His footwork's not immaculate, but it's good. And I think this is the, like, everybody asks me, what does Chauncey do that's so good? I'm like, well, I don't really particularly know as far as like play calls. I don't think they run like this incredible offense, but I also don't think they have the personnel for it. But I think he empowers guys when they show they have stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Delano is a guy that is showing that he has stuff. And so Billups is going, all right, bet. Go out there and do the damn thing. And I think they're trying to give Scoot those opportunities, but I think Scoot's still trying to figure out not only the game stuff, but I think his body. I think he's still a little dinged up, or he's still just like trying to get back into the groove, which is why he's struggled the last couple of games. But yeah, right now, right this second, Banton's a better player, which really shouldn't come as a surprise considering he's 24 years old.
It shouldn't, but it will, because if anybody, and I mean anybody, would have heard at the beginning of the year, hey, there's a guy in Boston named Delano Banton. He's going to be a Blazer, and he's going to be better than Scooter. They take it 3. Most people go, excuse me?
Yeah.
Who? Where?
Por qué?
Banton? Delano? Okay.
Yeah, it's tough. But no, I mean, 18-5-4 is like, it's nothing to slouch at, especially when you're shooting like, essentially 50%. So I think the big part of that is Scoot has not had, the reason it feels like that more than anything is that Scoot has not had any period of time over like more than 4 or 5 games of being solid. Like he manages to sneak one game in there where you're like, Jesus Christ, dude. It's like, chill,
No
don't force, don't press. And I think the mental part of it has been a bigger struggle for Scoot over the last couple months than the physical part of it. And I think that like once he kind of recenters, I think he'll find a little bit more. But
is the physical part an underrated part though of a journey like this for a 19-year-old, 20-year-old? Like,
yeah, it's not like he has the physical strength. I think it's
right.
more about understanding what he needs to do physically. Like, again, going back to the G League stuff, he can pick the ball up the free throw line and just use his athleticism to get by guys. In the NBA, you just can't do that. He ran into Luke Cornett that he ran into? Was it a Celtics game?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when he made his return, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
he ran into Cornette, and it was like, what's it like running into that big bastard? Like, it was just a brick wall. He's
had a tough one, Danny.
Yeah.
A lot of national podcasters, they're not saying anything, like nobody's going on.
Nobody's killing him yet because he's a rookie.
Right, but it is a lot of like.
This summer, he has got to figure out. The shooting, I don't think he's ever going to be an elite shooter. I said that from the jump. I think he can be a guy that is passable. I think he can.
That's all you're looking for, I think, in your team.
But the thing he has got to figure out is the finishing. If you're not a shooter at that point guard spot, you better be a bastard at the rim.
Yeah.
Like and he just hasn't. And that's that's the thing he has got to. And again, Dame had to work through this. Ant is still working through this. There's just so many when guys come in the league young, hell, when they come in old like Dame, if you are not 6'5 plus, you have got to have an elite finishing package, and just so many don't.
Yeah.
So they just got to figure it out.
Do you think Ayton will be able to continue playing this well, once Jeremy's back on the court?
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy affords them more spacing. I don't know if anybody watched the games with Jeremy out. DA was operating in a phone booth. He had no space to work with. He was still wildly efficient. But they couldn't get him as many shots because they were taking away so much of his airspace. But, yeah, I think absolutely that's unquestioned that he'll be just fine with Jeremy back on the floor. The reason I think Jeremy looked like crap, was it against Boston or Atlanta when he came back? It was like, oof, that was rough. Jeremy's beat to hell. And he was
playing through some stuff for a while there.
Good God. His hamstrings, his lower back, his upper back. Like, I talked to him after every game, like, how you doing, man? He's like, he just kind of like, throw his eyes back, throw his head back. And I'm like, that bad? And then, I'd look and he'd have like 4 electrodes up one of his like $7,000 shirts on his back. And, he's getting plugged in, getting the stem massage while he's soaking his feet, while he's got, the trainer working on his hamstrings. And I'm just like, he's like, if I went back and charted the like 5 games before he sat out, how many times he hit the ground, it probably would have been like 18 a night. He just kept hitting the ground over and over and over, whether it was fouls, getting tripped up on drives, taking charges or trying to take charges, getting run into on rebounds, diving for loose balls. He was just hitting the ground endlessly.
And what's the hardest part about hitting the ground? You got to get up.
Got to get up. He was just so beat up. It was like, bro. So I ran into him before they went on this trip. And I was like, you going to play on the trip? He's like, yeah, probably. He goes, I still needed a couple more nights. I just needed to relax, like get this out, especially with the hamstring. That's one of those ones, like when you get the soft tissue, it's like, can't mess with that one.
Yeah. This will kind of transition us into tournament talk, prospect stuff.
Indeed.
What are your thoughts on Tyler Smith and if found innocent Terrence Shannon Jr., Dalton
Connect? Terrence, I'm not touching.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that.
I don't think organizationally they're touching that.
I'm out on that.
Yeah. You can say innocent until proven guilty, blah, blah, blah. That's totally fine. I don't disagree with you. I just don't think that he's a talent that's so overwhelming that you need to
dive into those
waters. Tyler Smith was the other one in there in Dalton Connect.
Tyler Smith and Dalton Connect.
Yeah, Tyler Smith is like everybody that I've talked to, the comp that I keep getting for him is Channing Frye, which solid player.
Good player.
When I watched him with the G League Ignite, he's legitimately 6'10", well-built kid. Seems to just kind of flow. Just fits in really, you know what I mean? Like just understands where he needs to be, when he needs to be there. The shooting looks like it's legitimate. He's a near 40% three-point shooter last I checked. Like if the Blazers were going to use a second first-round pick in this draft, okay, I could see that. I don't think they're going to use that pick. Now, if maybe he falls to the second round, the Blazers use a second-round pick on him, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Tracks to somebody they like.
I'm going to break my rule. I don't use this word very often. Dalton Connect's a motherfucker. Just an absolute dude. Like, did you catch any of the Tennessee Kentucky game?
Yes, the SEC. Yeah,
not the title game. It was before the tournament. The game, like, was it a week before the tournament?
Is it where they came back?
Kentucky came back at the end. Yeah, Reed Shepherd went bonkers. Hit, was it 7 of 9 threes? But Connect had 40, and they're doing everything they can to stop him. Mid-range pull-up, drive, three, just going to work. Like, there's so much of when we're scouting, when we're doing evaluations, and I've talked to so many scouts and executives about this. Sometimes you need to just throw the tape out and go, can this guy play?
Yeah.
Dalton Connect can play. Like, is he going to be a star in the league? Probably not. Is he going to be a starter in the league?
Yeah, but he's going to get Adam Morrison.
That's the thing. I don't think he's that. I don't think he's that. Like, I just think he's a dude. And there's, like, Doug McDermott is a dude.
Yeah.
Like, you want Doug McDermott on your team.
Sure.
Professional scorer, just bucket getter. It's Dougie Buckets, right? Like, he was a professional basketball player. There's just something about when those guys come around where you're like, I think you can say the same thing for Reed Shepherd, Kentucky. He's going to measure like 6'1.5" at the combine. He's listed at 6'3". He's not going to come in at 6'3". But the same thing about Fred VanVleet when he was coming out of Wichita State. It's like, yeah, he's undersized, but and look, now he's now he's here. He's a world champion. He's all-star. He made like $120 million on his last contract. Like, you need those kind of players. Every team wants those kind of players. Do I think, like, are the Blazers going to use their second first-round pick on him? Probably not. But do I think that there's a place for him in the NBA? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I ask you about a prospect that isn't talked about in the same light,
Yeah.
but I'm just kind of curious given the local angle here? When you watch N'Faly Dante, what is N'Faly Dante in the league to you? Just a backup rotational big who knows how to block shots?
I don't know if I see rotational big.
Okay.
His physical stuff is like, he should be a lot better than he is.
You know what's funny? Okay, it's funny you say that. I SU not like 2 weeks ago. I was doing the radio show, and I said, I don't mean this to sound like such a negative. His numbers are fine. Mm-hmm. But when I see him out there, I'm like, Shaq. I just kind of think like mini little Shaq.
Well, I mean, he's legitimately 7 foot tall.
He is.
He's big as hell. I think they have him listed. Let me pull it up. He's listed at 210. He's 235, 240.
He's a quick jumper. Like, he's got all of these things that you're just like, yes. And he put it together and won that Pac-12 title game.
Yes, he did. He absolutely, unequivocally did.
But there is just something like, it sounds negative, but I watch him and I go, just a little more.
Yeah, no, like, there's just something about him that doesn't pop when it should, if that makes sense. I know it sounds dumb.
It sounds dumb today because they just beat Colorado.
Again, solid player.
Yeah.
Solid player, and because of his size and athleticism, I think he's totally fine, like going and having a Nazi Muhammad type career. Totally fine.
That's a good career.
Journeyman bench big. Totally fine. Which, again, that's
Bari's dad. I mean, one of those kind of careers.
Yes, exactly. Like, hell, Bari.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. I'm so sick and tired of people like, oh, he's only a bench guy. It doesn't matter. You need good bench players. Like, and so if you find those guys, especially with like legitimate size, Yeah, but I watch him and I'm just like. The flip side of that is his former Oregon big man Khalil Ware at Indiana, who has talent, but the production doesn't always live up to the talent because of other stuff. And it's like, if N'Faly Dante at his size and the way he plays had Khalil Ware's talent, then you're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, okay. So it's interesting at least.
Give me your thoughts on Cody Williams.
Cody Williams is probably number 2 or number 3 on my board, depending on things. He's had a subpar couple of games since coming back from injury.
Yeah.
The thing about him is,
I thought he had good matchups against Oregon, and I just didn't feel like he took complete advantage of them. But also that
and I wonder how much
don't figure that out.
I wonder how much the stuff, the injuries and
yeah, how many games did he miss? He missed kind of the back end of the season.
But not only that, I wonder if maybe the draft is in the back of his mind and not getting hurt and protecting himself because right now he's a top 5 pick. You know what I mean? That's something you have to consider. It just is. The one red flag, not even red flag, orange flag with him when I watched all of his tape. Everyone knows he wants to get to the rim, and yet he still scores. His shooting has shown that it's very real. He doesn't seem to ever put the gas down, and I don't think it's lazy or that his motor runs cold. I wonder if it's I'm too cool for this, and I wonder if you can, and not in a bad way, but I don't know. There's just something that's missing. And I wonder if it's he just matching the level of competition. But I want to see more dog in him per 36.
Yeah.
I don't think he's dogless, so to speak. It is not an empty junkyard, but it's this only mild barking coming off those chains. So, but the tools are undeniable.
Is there a sleeper in the tourney you're looking for?
College basketball does not have a lot of guys that I'm super interested in, just to be blunt.
That's why the women's game's been better this year, by the way.
Oh, God, yes. If
that tournament's going to be insane.
Yeah. Did you see who Portland got? Good Lord.
I did. I bought tickets to the Monday game.
I got credentials.
Well, aren't you cool? I'll be there with my daughter.
I'm I'm gonna go work this game.
Juju.
Yeah, no, you're damn right. But if you look at just about every board, the only college players that are in the top 10 are Stephon Castle from UConn, the Kentucky kids Dillingham and Shepard, and then maybe, well, obviously Cody, and then maybe Klingon. If you bump out to the lottery, it's usually Dalton, Collier, Keyshawn George, Jacoby Walter. I'm trying to scroll through here, on my list.
God, you just highlighting this, I think, kind of sums up the situation.
It's if the top 10 is
from, international or G League.
Yeah, basically. From guys that I've talked to, that's the way it is. Topic, the G League kids in Holland and Modus. Saloon is a guy that I'm writing on as well. French kid who I talked to somebody who was just over there about a month ago. And he's listed at 6'9". He is every bit of 6'10" plus, and
still growing.
Big as a brick shit house. Just the thing is, the highs are high, the lows are craters.
He literally played tonight and I didn't see him.
Yeah, which is super weird because if you look at pictures of him, he's 18 right now. At 18, he looks like 20-year-old Giannis.
Can you give me he looks like 20-year-old Giannis?
Yeah.
As a comp?
As an 18-year-old.
Gotcha.
So physically,
yeah.
And he's a guy where you could maybe see him playing 5 as a guy that could put the ball on the floor, kind of as a forward. just being a real, like kind of like Giannis when they play Giannis at the 5, where it's like, oh, this is a pain in the ass to deal with.
Right.
So that's like the intriguing thing about him. 6 foot, like I said, he's legitimately 6'10". His wingspan I've seen listed at 7'1". Everybody I've talked to is like, no, he's like 7'3", 7'4".
Jeez.
Like he's big as hell with like a +4, +5 wingspan.
A combine gets that kind of guy elevated. Yeah.
Just goes skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Combine's going to be really interesting because Rob Dillingham is listed at, I think, 6'2", 6'3". He's 6 foot. My man's little, but he could cook.
All right, first of all, as that guy, that was me in high school. Like, shout out us, those 6-footers who were 6'2" on the brochure.
Yeah, no, he definitely not 6'3", definitely not 6'3", not 6'2", but probably not 6'1". But he could hoop. Same thing with Shepard. But yeah, like if you look at your internationals, it's Rizase, Sar, the G League guys, Saloon, Topic. It's a lot of not college basketball guys.
Yeah.
So, and then you take a look at like who's going to be in the tournament from that group. You've got Jared McCain and Filipowski from Duke on
no
one.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I don't like trippers.
Yeah, right. And then you've got Dalton Connect. You've got Cody. You've got Klingon, and then you've got the Kentucky kids. And then I'm trying to think of any. Scrolling through my list. Baylor's obviously got Jacoby and Ease Missy. I think Kevin McCullough is done for the season for Kansas.
Okay.
So I need to take a look at that. Trying to think if anybody else. Providence didn't make the tournament, that was a surprise. Virginia
a couple
did.
of the conference tournament winners screwed everything up.
Yeah, but even then,
no
it was
one seeds were winning.
Yeah, Virginia getting in still super weird, but that's Ryan Dunn, who's without a doubt the best defender in college basketball. Like, it's not particularly close. He's so far.
Bennett, I think, gets a benefit as well.
Yeah, that's probably true.
They tend to reward those coaches. Boeheim got in a couple years. He shouldn't have got in.
If you're talking about the back end of the first round, you're talking about like your Tyler Kotex and Johnny Furphy's, your token whites.
Sure.
But yeah, and then Marquette, also Iguodaro.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's kind of slim pickings for especially first round guys. If you start getting into the second round, you're probably finding some more guys. But it's tough out here.
Well, there's 15 games left. Let me just throw something at you.
Yeah.
My thing is with the final 15, assuming health is fine. Ideally for me, I'd really like 7 of the 15. Maybe 7's a bit aggressive. 6 to 7. If I'm looking for something to end the year, Portland's not good, the record's awful, all of that.
Yeah.
I'd feel much better to see Scoot show some stuff. Now, again, I know how the
put some games together.
Yeah, just kind of and try to end on a high note. It doesn't have to be numbers that are impossible for him, but to just see a little more. Okay, there we go. We build off that going into the offseason.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for the shiny things, you know what Ant can do, but you want to see the consistency out of it. You know what DA can do. You just want to see the consistency out of it. I think you want to see Scoot not only show consistency, but like raise the floor a little bit in the final 15. I think you want to see Tumani continuing to show his growth as far as like he's looked so much better since that awful road trip where they had that, that come to Jesus meeting and they really locked in expectations and roles. Like everybody has their expectations. They have their preseason stuff and then things change. Then guys get hurt. Then Tumani's starting and now all of a sudden kind of feeling himself and maybe he needs to reel it back in a little bit. And ever since then, it's done really good. Chris Murray, his offense is still struggling. But defensively, he's looked really good, and he's impacted the box score everywhere else. The swing is, can Chris shoot? And I mentioned this on Twitter, but he told me the other night that in the practice facility, he has the least amount of variation on his jump shot as of anyone in the building.
Really?
Yes. So they all have the NOAA tracking system is going at all times.
Yeah.
But he's got to take that empty gym stuff and translate it to the game. But like, there's something. It's not a situation where you need to like tear down a shot and build it back up from scratch. I think it's a confidence thing, and it's a getting it to that building thing.
I think that of all the things we've talked about off the air, that's probably for me the one that sticks out the most with him.
For sure.
Because it just seems, you've explained this, the locker room setting for some of these younger guys, whether that's Scoot or Chris, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you can like see it and hear it from them when they're not happy with themselves.
Yep.
And sometimes you start pressing. Sounds like it's as easy for Chris's. You just gotta get it out of your
Just
head
got to keep shooting. Just got to keep shooting.
Let it fly.
Yeah, and and to his credit, he has been. He's had some really rough shooting nights, but like, maybe it eventually gets there. That's the thing is like if he's like a 36% 3-point shooter with all the other stuff that he does, he's a very good role player.
Yeah,
a very solid role player that can play on any team. Plus size, plus defender, can play make a little bit for you, makes good decisions, doesn't make mistakes. That's the big one is he doesn't make mistakes.
Are you happy with how many threes two is getting up?
I think the volume's about right.
It's about right.
I think the volume's about right. He needs to go in the lab. That is like lock 2 in the gym, get 3s up. It's either that or he's got to spend all summer working at 4-on-3s as a screener. Because it's got to be one of those two things. It's got to be as a decision maker / facilitator, ball mover type, or as a floor spacer.
Gotcha.
It was funny when they played the Hawks the other night. Wesley Matthews got a surprise start. And I was talking to somebody and I went, God, that's who 2 reminds me of. Totally different players. Totally different players, but like the trajectory, right?
Mm-hmm.
West is a guy that goes undrafted, goes to Utah, and is just such an obscene asshole defensively that they have to play him. They don't have a choice. But he doesn't close games because he can't shoot. And I can't remember who wrote the article on it, but it's something I whoever wrote it, they wrote it well enough it's stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
Wes went to Jeff Hornacek and bugged him. Why am I not playing? Why am I not playing? Why am I not playing? Hornacek was an assistant on the team at the time. He's like, Wes, you can't shoot. Period. It was like point blank with him. And Wes was like, teach me. And this is his rookie year. He would, after games, get like 500 shots up. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and just maniacal work ethic. And then he was like, he went from unquestionably a non-shooter to like viable. Then from viable to like pretty good.
Dangerous.
They were pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh shit, this guy can shoot the living hell out of the ball. Stay with him.
Yeah.
And then as his career progressed, he added one dribble pull-up on closeouts. Then it went from one dribble pull-up to the ability to attack closeouts and drive and finish. And then he added a Euro step. And you're like, every year, he is the anomaly. He is the anomaly. Every year he came back with the post-up game. He came back. He made James Harden his bitch in that playoff series. It was something I had never seen before. Terry Stotts is like, time to unleash the Kraken. And the Kraken was Wes Matthews posting up James Harden for an entire quarter. And Harden just got exposed over and over and
he doesn't
over.
Want to be down there.
But it was like James Harden or Wesley Matthews is posting somebody up.
Right.
But it was because he had Terry trusted him because he had put the work in, and he just beat the hell again out of James Harden, whose defense sucked. But physically, James was not weak. But it was such a Wes Matthews is posting like the option, like the decision tree is starting with Wesley Matthews post-ups. If you had gone back 3 years, you were like, oh, you're in the playoffs? How? You know what I mean? Like, so Wes is like is the one of one. Guys don't do that. That's not normal for guys to add like a thing and then another
tough
thing.
Expectation too. To meet.
But the style of 2, how he got on the floor, his mentality. I was talking to him after the Celtics game. I was like, that's a tough team right there, huh? And he goes, that's what I want to be. And he kind of smiled. Just like him and I were just walking out together. And we just kind of had a little talk about it. But you could see, he's like, yeah. Because that's the first time they've played that team. So 2 had never seen that machine and that kind of execution in his rookie season. It's different, right? And you could tell he was thinking about it in his head. Like, what does it mean to be like that good, to execute that well? And I just started thinking about West because he had the same kind of mindset. So it's very interesting. But I think if you put him, just lock him in a gym as either like a 4-on-3 guy or just working on his 3-point shot the entire summer, and he comes back and shows that he's at a functional level for either of those things, he's in a very good spot.
I got just a couple more questions here, and then I want to get your takeaways. 15 games left. What is Danny Marang? Is there one thing above maybe some other things for you? Is there a scenario where? Oh, actually, I think we kind of talked about that. Sorry, I thought we'd not read that one, but we kind of answered that one. I wanted to. Where is it? Give me a second here.
A little live producing. I like it.
Is Sarr for you? I'll go back to Sarr real quick. Is Sarr for you the biggest difference maker in the draft?
Yes.
In regards to Portland?
Yes.
He is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That can't change? Or is that one of those like
No. 7-1 with that mobility. When all things are equal on a scouting profile, the thing that I always come back to is functional size. And 7-1 is going to trump just about anything. Like, if Wemby was just meh offensively, but at 7'5", his defense was world-bending, you're like, nah, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. He's 7'5", and he can cover the entire floor. I don't care what he does on the other side. So it's like, when you've got that kind of size and mobility, and the defensive IQ to go with it, I'll go that. I'll take Sarr.
Quickly, do we have any update on Malcolm?
I think Malk is on the way towards they'll do the reevaluation and then see maybe if he can come back.
Okay.
But I'm not sure at this point. I think it's one of those things where I had some people like, well, they're shutting him down. I'm like, well, guys, he got a PRP injection in his elbow. You're basically out for a month. I know what the organization has done the last 2 years, and you and I have both called it out when we this is
leaning in.
But yeah, we're leaning in. Like, they're steering into the skid. I haven't said that this year because they aren't. Not yet. They have been beat up. Just go ahead and Google PRP recovery timeline. Like, you don't have to believe me. Go Google it. It's very simple. Like, it takes like a month to 6 weeks for it to chill. So, and you're talking about a professional athlete and discomfort versus comfort in his shooting arm. So, yeah, I think it would probably behoove them to get him out there if they are planning on trading him this summer. Show that, hey, everything's good, everything's cool, we're good here. Like, that would be a good thing to do. On the injury front, Jabari is completely off the injury report. So is Anthony for tomorrow's game.
Great.
So that'll be nice. I keep hearing that the hope is that Shaden can play the last couple games of the season. That
would be huge, man.
Yeah, I'd be a nice little lift before the end of the season. Talking to Shea, he's doing on-court stuff. He's not fully going yet. I'd say he's probably at 50%.
Okay.
So we'll see how much he ramps up or doesn't here in the next 2 weeks. So again, there's only 15 games left. If he's going to make his return, we should know relatively soon.
What are you looking for? What's your big thing? If mine is Scoot having 6-7 games where I go, okay, all right, there's something there. What's Danny Marang's final 15?
I think it's probably Shea getting on the floor, Scoot showing some stuff. And then less important, but more selfishly for the agenda, I want to see Roops kind of show a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's my guy.
How do you think he's felt about his year? About what he expected?
Better than expected for him, but not with as many opportunities as he would like. And the biggest issue there is, before everybody loses their shit, he was supposed to spend a significant amount of time with the remix, but they got so beat up that he was one rolled ankle away from playing 30 minutes a night, and so he had to be on standby emergency duty.
Yeah,
that's just the nature of the beast, and it sucked. Organizationally, everyone was like, "Yeah, we wish we would have been able to get Roops more time." Down with the remix. I think that they're going to push Baby Bird out of the nest here in the final 15 games. I don't think he's going to get the 35 minutes a night stuff, but you're already starting to see it now that he's back healthy. For everybody who's like, oh, he's not playing the other night, but he's available. I will tell you, period, point blank. Ryan Rupert told me to my face, my ankle is bothering me. I'm probably not going to go tonight. And if I have to, okay. But his ankle had been bothering him for a couple of days leading up to that. And so, like, he was marked available, but he was not going to play. And it was like, well, he says it's available. It's like, okay.
You know what, though, Danny? I think the problem here is, and I think you've done it. You may have done this before. My memory serves, I want to say it was you. Somebody did like, hey, this is what doubtful actually means. Mm-hmm. This is what questionable actually means. This is what will be available. Like, there needs to be a consistent chart for people to see. I think that's why you get so much confusion or anger. Or, hey, this is available.
Well, and available doesn't mean entirely healthy.
No, it doesn't, but it sounds like you can play.
Yeah. He's available to play if somebody rolls an ankle and they have to have him to play. That's where they were with it. And then once he started to feel better, you saw him play the other night. So I think he's going to get more opportunities down the stretch. And I'm excited to see just kind of like to compare the tape at the beginning of the season, Summer League, till now.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Baji. I hope he gets an opportunity or two out there.
That is all the questions that we didn't get to. We answered them kind of without asking them.
Yes, roundabout way,
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's awesome. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. Whether you're listening here live or watching live on YouTube, or you're listening wherever you get your podcast, we appreciate you. If you want to come hang out Thursday and Friday, Dusty and I and Isaac and Soup will both be up at A in Washington at the Sportsbook, broadcasting live from noon to 7 on location. I will be spending the night up there because I'm not making that drive twice.
You bougie bitch.
Yeah, you're damn right. You making that drive from A to Newburgh twice?
I don't want to make it from A to Clackamas.
So hard pass. But come out and hang out, and then I'll be at the game on Friday night as well. We are still trying to figure out what we're going to do for the draft lottery, final location, and have something set up because it is going to be a Sunday. It's a weird kind of thing.
It's a weird situation.
NBA being dumb about this. Like I've talked to a couple executives about the 2-day draft, and they're all like, "This is all very dumb. Nobody needs this." The league, like, as employees, we do not want this. Like none of them want this. None.
You know what's funny is they deny fixing the season and saying like, "Yo, let it be a little physical." They deny it, but then their grand idea.
You can see the stark contrast. It's like, guys,
clear as day.
What do you mean you didn't change anything?
Get out of here with that.
We can see it act like the number plummet.
And by the way, is it tough for players? It certainly is. You know, people have been bitching that there's too much scoring. So like,
I like where it's at. I
do too. I'm not mad at it. But what's funny is they get mad and defensive and deny that, and then their grand idea to fix everything is you can be Spider-Man while you watch Victor Wembanyama, and I'm like, no interest. Yep. What are we doing here?
Missing the point.
Yes.
So
come on.
Other than that, you can listen to Mr. Sprague here every morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan. One more week until your coach is back?
No, I'm back. He's back tomorrow.
Oh, you're both back tomorrow.
Back tomorrow. And by the way, I'll be out there Friday, so I'll come badger Danny and Dusty and be hanging around the stadium.
We'll
making a bunch of bad parlays.
We'll at least make some 5-leggers. At least
5, brother. We're going 8, 9 deep. We're trying to get a payout here.
I'm down. I'm down for some irresponsible gambling.
We should do one station parlay. We should.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We should do like a group text and be like, everybody pick one thing.
Ooh.
And then we'll put it on a ticket.
Throw like an MMA fight in there.
Whatever it is, and see who blows the parlay at 1080.
Ooh. Who blows? That's
who blows? Yeah. Probably Dusty, knowing his past experiences.
Wow. A whole lot of blow.
That's mechanic.
Everybody's going to take this so out of context that it's perfect.
That's the beauty of saying Dusty's a cokehead.
That's right. On that note, you can listen to me and my cokehead partner, Danny and Dusty, noon to 3 on 1080 The Fan. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys here. I don't know.
We'll do one this week. We'll catch back up this week.
Yeah, we'll probably do one before we go up to A, or maybe we'll do one while I'm up at A. Who knows? We'll figure something out. Other than that, we appreciate you. We love you. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful night. Safe weekend. Enjoy the sun before it goes away, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care. Talk soon.